All set? Everybody ready? All right. All right, with it now being 6:30, we will call this meeting of the Webster Public Schools School Committee to order. And as always, we'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice. Good evening, everyone. Everybody made it out of the snow alive. I was glad to see that we had an early dismissal and a delayed after seeing some of the other issues in our surrounding towns. Thank you. All right, we'll start with the first item agenda, which is approval of the December 11th, 2018 executive session meeting minutes, which would be for, not for release, I'm sorry. With that being said, I will take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I hear a motion and a second. Lori, would you poll the committee? Yes.
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 And in the same order, it looks like the next item is approval of the January 22nd, 2019 school committee meeting minutes. And I will also entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Lori, would you poll the committee? Yes.
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 Thank you. Next up, superintendent's report. Superintendent Gogan.
Good evening, everyone. How is everyone tonight?
Good, thank you.
I have a long report. I apologize in advance. I'm going to start by filling you in on my the District Administrative Leadership Summit that I attended. I was selected one of 70 superintendents nationwide and was down in New Orleans at a conference that was very informative. I'm going to pass this around if you want to see me. I made the big time in page 12. Some of the workshops were very good. It was a very different workshop where presenters came and presented at 30-minute snippets, so there was a lot of information that was shared. I participated in everything. The keynote speaker, Peter Gorman, spoke about reciprocal accountability and how that starts with you as a leader, which I felt was very pertinent to the work that we're doing in Webster. Many of the other workshops included some of the similar things that we're doing here. The ST Math Mind Research was there, and we are anxiously waiting to hear if we receive that grant for the ST Math program. Sitting with other superintendents across the state, that grant is not available in other states, and if we do receive that grant, we'll be receiving a program probably worth well over $80,000. So our fingers are crossed for that. It was I'm very glad I went. So I wanted to give you that update. I wanted to also let you know that we've been collaborating with the District Attorney's Office, and I'm pleased to say that we saw a video, a documentary called If They Had Known. It's a story about a Massachusetts college student who lost his life after mixing Xanax and alcohol. A very powerful movie. We are going to be showing that to our community on March 14th, working with the District Attorney's Office. Similar to what we did last year, we're going to have some resource tables set up at the high school, opening it up to community members and parents across the district. We will have panel discussion and resources available for both students and families to recognize the dangers of drugs and drinking. Tonight I have in the packet for you an update on the Southern Worcester County Collaborative, Quarter 1, Quarter 2, and the annual report is there for your review. I do want to give you an update that we have 19 students over at that collaborative. I'm a board member on behalf of the district. We just approved the FY20 budget. The budget was voted on, $7 million. And in the budget, they have built their budget on an anticipated 17 additional tuitions, which they historically have gotten every year. This budget includes a 3% tuition increase. And they're a collaborative that are looking at financial stability as well. Their OPEB is underfunded, so new in this FY20 budget, they're going to have a line item for putting away $50,000 if they can do it every year to start closing the gap on their OPEB. And personnel updates, I want to inform you that Tara Butler, an ABA paraprofessional at Bartlett High School, resigned, and we have recently hired Sabrina McFarland as a .8 ABA paraprofessional at Park Ave Elementary School. We had brought that additional request to you at a previous meeting. And my other updates list is quite long, sorry, but we've been very busy doing a lot of different things here. We held our first meeting with negotiations with the paraprofessionals. At the first meeting, we set ground rules and discussed meeting dates and broad topics. Our next meeting date is February 28th. I am pleased to let you, excuse me, I had a second meeting with representatives from Curaleaf in Webster to discuss ways that they can support an anti-drug and education in our schools. I'm very pleased to let you know that they are coming through with a donation. I will have them at our next school committee meeting. The donation will be over $13,000, and we will be using that donation specifically to buy FlySense sensors for our bathrooms at the Bartlett High School. So I'm pleased about that, and you'll get to meet their representative at our next meeting. I'm also pleased to tell you that although the comprehensive district review is not over, a major heavy lift is over because today we submitted our self-assessment and truckloads of evidence. I want to give a special shout out to our entire team, but in particular to Michelle Budney, who has been our guru of organizing different folders. She's really gone above and beyond, so I want to thank her for that. We are in the midst of setting up the draft schedule, and we're going back and forth with our district liaison. Her name is Christine Brandt. She came out and met with Kathy and I last week. And I can let you know that the school committee will be interviewed, and it will most likely be on March 6th, anywhere from 4:30 to 5:30. And once we have a firmed up calendar of a draft, we will send that to you. I also want to let you know that we had a drug sweep at both the Webster Middle School and the Bartlett High School with the drug dogs from the Central Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council. Those are police officers from multiple towns. I want to give a shout out to our SRO, Tim Whiting, for arranging that drug sweep. I'm pleased to report that no drugs were found. And we do that periodically and unannounced, and so that went very well. I was in attendance at Monday's public hearing, and I'm very pleased to let you know that I was able to speak publicly along with Chief of Police Mike Shaw and Town Manager Doug Willardson against flavored tobacco, and they voted 3-2 to restrict flavored tobacco in Webster. That will be starting in April. We spoke, all three of us, about the importance of educating our students about the dangers of drugs and flavored tobacco. And unfortunately, we heard that from some of the store owners that parents are buying flavored tobacco products for their children. And so education starts not only at school but at home. Hi, Mariah. I would like to let you know that we are still in the midst of the administrative assistant negotiations, and our next meeting is February 27th. As I have been telling you, we are in the midst of doing program evals. Hopefully we'll have those results at the next meeting from each of the buildings on our different programs. Hey, David. And Senator Fatman and Representative McKenna have been invited to join us at our next meeting, where we can share with them any concerns or ideas for budgeting. Tonight is a busy night. We have our Title I and Special Ed annual parent meeting occurring right now in our building, and we have the Bartlett, Best of Bartlett going on. And I have a couple more things, I'm sorry. We had selected one teacher to be awarded the Project Bread's Teacher Champion Award, and that award was given to Sue Dodd over at the high school for her commitment to the food service department and the breakfast program, working over at Park Ave with putting that together. She will be given a $500 stipend to use towards educational needs. I'm also pleased to let you know that, do you have that on your list? Okay. Okay, so I'm pleased, I didn't want to take it if you had it. I'm pleased to let you know that Tyler Adolfo has won the Lions Club Youth Speech yet again. So Tyler has actually won the club level, the zone level, the district level, and he is competing one more time to against 4 other district winners to be the best speaker in the state. And he will be competing in May. And then afterwards, I will invite him to share his speech, because I can imagine that it's very powerful. Let's see. I did let you know, and I will let you know again, that although we have the job descriptions for coaches on the agenda, I would ask that we table that. The WEA union is requesting that those be negotiated, and we have a meeting set up for February 25th to resolve any issues and bring forth a final product for you to take a look at. And we are holding yet another Saturday PD, this time for Park Avenue Elementary teachers and administrators. And we have 25 teachers coming this Saturday, and 2 administrators from the building, and Jill, who's organizing this again. I think that's a great sign that people are committed to our new programming. And then last but not least, this afternoon, we held a data deep dive in this room with the administrative team. And that was hosted by McGraw-Hill, where we took a much deeper look, again, another look at our MCAS results and our data and what the data is telling us about our subgroups and what we need to do to take action to close the gaps. So this is, again, an ongoing conversation. So that concludes my report tonight.
Thank you, Superintendent Gogan. Just a couple of things I have. One, it always amazes me how busy the district is with your reports, to see how much is going on. 2, I just wanted to personally give you my thanks, you and Mo, or Ms. Brangeli, sorry, for force the habit, for attending that meeting and speaking out against the flavored tobacco. It seems to be, tobacco products in general seem to be an issue in town in general with the youth, so was very happy to hear that it was turned down. So, thank you.
And Ms. Gogan flew solo on that one. I wasn't able
Oh,
to
she
make
did?
it.
Oh, I thought the note said you were there.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? No? With that being said, we will go to our normal procedure, if no one minds, taking things out of order and going right to our student update with Mariah Belletti. Good evening.
For athletics, the football players had their annual banquet on February 4th. They all received their union jackets and leaves. Abigail Pawlowski set a record for indoor track in the league meet, and the informational meetings for on February 11th. And boys varsity basketball has been won over Leicester, Rowdy, Buck, and Southbridge recently. For student government, we have their freshman class who's XL Candy. And in the junior class is selling Orange Crush for $1 in spirit of Valentine's Day. For clubs, Mock Trial won over Hopedale, and Black Empowerment Student Club has been presenting multiple presentations throughout this month. Power and Knowledge Month. How important. Diversity Tribe is also hosting a Black Lives Matter activity. Faculty are asked for Black and Yellow support to show support for Black Lives Matter, and then there's a blood drive on. As for the fine arts, the Bartlett Big Band first Berkeley High School Jazz Festival, and the students Abigail Pawlowski and Barry Kane Impressions Computer received a silver medal at second place. Band. They also had another class Saturday at Tabasco with grand champs and for upcoming events, we have the Spirit Days for Kindness. Mr. Bartlett signups have begun in the March 13th. And Ms. Sanborn has also been providing supplies cards, so that could be done in the library.
Any questions or comments for Mariah? Hearing none, thank you very much. Again, I apologize for being late. It's kind of hard to be at two places at once, as everybody knows, and it's a little important to be at the senior night for the girls' basketball team. So thank you, Mr. Chenevert, for filling in. Unless the committee objects, since we do have a guest with us this evening, I did just want to jump down to item B under new business. Approval of overnight field trip Bartlett DECA National Competition, Boston, Mass. This is the annual field trip request by, good evening, Mrs. Haining. Good, how are you? If you want to just turn that microphone on, please, and fill us in on what your wonderful students are doing this year.
As long as it's good. Here, let's do it this way.
Okay, so the DECA Club has 19 students. We attended the district competition in Boxborough about a month and a half ago. And out of those 19 students, 6 of them have now advanced to the state competition, which will be held in Boston on March 7th, 8th, and 9th. So those students are Ryan Zaleski, Tyler Adolfo, Vangel Jurgo, Noah Azawi, Brandy Mercer, and Allison Gremsky. And we will be going to Boston for 3 days. The students will be doing role plays and taking part in workshops. And I'm here to request permission to bring these students to this competition.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
I have a comment.
Okay.
It's a great experience for the kids. Last year, I was able to judge, and I didn't get to see our kids that much because I was judging one particular area, but I was so impressed with the level of poise that every student has to bring to their challenge. And thank you for leading the kids in that direction.
Thank you. It is really a good experience. It definitely gives them an opportunity to see if this is what they want to pursue, you know, when they graduate or when they go to college. There are probably 20 different categories, and they have to choose one category and then stick with it. And a lot of them, you know, as I said, Mariah actually was at the district competition, and it's pretty tough. She did a wonderful job. It's just unfortunately, you know, there's a certain minimum score that they have to receive in order to advance. And as I said, 6 out of 19 I thought was pretty good. So.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Congratulations
Thank you very much.
for making it as far as you did, and then another 6 going on to the next level.
Thank you.
Wish you the best.
It'll be fun. Thanks very much.
So I probably say this every year, and I should say it more often, but again, I just want to thank you for being a wonderful teacher. I know you're certainly one of my kids' favorite teachers and one of my favorite teachers as a parent. So not only what you do in the classroom, but certainly what you do outside, not just with DECA, but your smile going down the hall is what is a lot of kids need sometimes. It's just somebody to smile at them and some kindness. So thank you.
The kids are wonderful. They really are. I mean, as you can see.
It's kind of slacking lately.
I know.
If there aren't any other comments, I will entertain a motion to approve the DECA overnight field trip to Boston on March 7th to the 9th.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion in 2 seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We will continue with the superintendent's report, going back to the business manager report. Good evening, Mrs. Perangeli.
Good evening. I like all the tag team on here.
Should do it more often, shouldn't we?
I know, right? Good stuff. The first thing I want to present to you is the end of year report. We had, as you know, the auditors were out in, I believe it was in December, one of the earliest we've ever had done. They took all the information back, and I heard from them last week that they completed, and I'm happy to report that there were no findings audit, so we are in good shape. And I just, my office and my assistant Cheryl for all their hard work every day. Feels good to have this done so early. I don't know what I'm gonna do over the next couple of months without having this sitting on my plate. So I'm excited to have it done.
What did you say?
It's on record. It's on record.
Come on, Mo.
The second item on my agenda is grant opportunity for Bartlett High School. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the town of Webster is a green community. So with that level of, comes the opportunity to seek green initiatives for grants. We were seeked out by the town. High up on the list is our boilers at the high school for being outdated, a lot of energy. So they came out to assess our boilers, and it looks like we're eligible for $1,000 grant to start replacing those through the town. So it would be a 3 or 4 year process. They would apply, it would be a couple of grants, so it would be $1,000 for the first grant that would replace 1 or 2 of the boilers. Only cost to the district would be removal of 1 of the boilers. Currently, right now, we have 2 old boilers that alternate. What this would do is it removal of 1 boiler, being the other boiler, and then saving some of that boiler for parts. They would cut it out, take out all the good parts, so we'd have replacement parts, and then install new boilers in the old boiler. So over time, it would, within the first year, it might use 20%, and then flip over to the bigger boiler for 80%, and then next year they would install another boiler up until we had about 3 or 4 boilers, new energy. So I told them, they came, they looked, they went back, they're gonna work on the plans and come back after assessing what we had. They were excited and they thought definite. I asked about the cost for the removal of the boiler and their guess from their experience. They said it would be about $10,000. So I think for that cost for the boilers, regardless of whether we're gonna have a building project down the road, we don't know if that's gonna happen. We should move forward if the opportunity is there for us. So I'll keep you up to date on that and what forward, but we will be applying for the boiler. Next thing I wanted to report on was Head Start. As you know, Head Start is now in Webster. They have been up and running since we came back from break. The food department has been busy. They are serving them breakfast, lunch, and snack for 70 kids. So Ellen has been working closely with Evelyn Velez and Kathy Dow over at Head Start. I must say they have reached out. They are very happy with their received prize there. Excited about that, and I think shout out to Linda Pawlowski and Fish over at Bartlett because they're prepping the food, and it's being picked up by Jack Kelly. He does the run anyways, private school. He added a stop along the way. Brings breakfast the afternoon of, so the day before, so they come in cold breakfast, and then they can reheat. Get hot lunch every day, deliver snacks. By snack, they keep it covered. We are treating them like a vendor. We are not doing all the paperwork. It was better for us just to treat them like a business. Charge them a reimbursable meal. They're responsible for all the submittals, all the claiming, track of all their so they are. But it's been exciting and it's working out well. We've had very minimal at all. It's just working out logistics. Uh-oh, there's a 2-hour delay. What do we do now? Or we're leaving early. What do we do now? Been very successful. They're doing a great job, and I can't thank Ellen enough. Service, great partnership. That we can collaborate with as these kids go up through the. She also said how adorable it is over there because they don't serve typically like we do for our lunches. They're individual. they serve everything. So they're teaching the art of sitting down and having dinner or having lunch as a family. So they have all their little portions out and everything like that. She said teachers sit with them and have lunch with them. So, I haven't been
That's
over there to
nice.
see it yet, but that's when she came back, she's all excited. See how cute it is over there. So, thank you for that. And then the next topic I wanted to talk to you about was transportation. So as you know, it's budget season, and looking at the budget for next year. As I was preparing the budget projection for next year, going through, regulations have changed as far as July 1st, 2008. That's to foster care. So when we have students who are in the foster care system, anybody who resides in Webster as of July 1st, 2008, the way it used to work in the past is those kids were taken by foster care and they were, so for instance, we had a Webster child that was removed and Auburn, or they were placed in Auburn, no cost to anyone. Now the law has changed to homeless. So now if a student is in Webster to Auburn, it's up to us to transfer that student. So, you know, it's supposed to be it's in the best interest of the child. They're saying to stay. They're already getting upset, you know, moved around a lot. So it would be in the best interest of the child for them to stay in the community. But with that, when this was being worked on with DCF, it was approached like it was going to be a shared responsibility. And all of the fiscal responsibility, DCF has not taken that fiscal responsibility. So they told us to track the transportation and that hopefully down the road, there may be some availability of funding. But in my communications with Jay Sullivan, finance director of the state, he doesn't think it's going to be. So his recommendation to me was, if I were you, I would budget 100. So in looking at those numbers, we had a meeting with the town, that's an impact of over 200,000, closer to 200. If I were to budget 100, 14 kids that are being currently right now, we just had another one who are being transported in and out. So something we need to keep a close eye on, something that we need to work out. I've already informed the town. We've sat down and talked about how we want to proceed with that. How should we proceed with that? Because some of these kids, you know, foster placement could be a month, but it could be 3 years. And the way it works is that we're responsible for as long as they're a Webster resident, or as long as they're in a school. So if they were in Park Ave for the 4 years, we would be responsible. The minute they go to middle school or another school, then we're not fiscally responsible. So they could go to the other they're in. But it's an area that we're watching closely. The town administrator's face was like, oh, that's not very good news. So not much we can do about it, but keep it on our radar and monitor it closely.
With Senator Fatman and Representative McKenna coming next, at their next meeting, that might be a topic that we might want to bring up to make them aware of this.
Yeah, they said there may be some Title IV-E money, that's the foster care regulation money coming in their system, but they said if any of it is reimbursable, it's not gonna be on all cases. It'll be on a select case, and even like homeless getting 32% back. So what we're gonna get. I just wanted to make you aware that that's forward in budget season affect the overall. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, thank you. Next item on the agenda is Principal Report, Michael Zajac, Webster Middle School. Good evening, Mr. Zajac.
Good evening. I hope it's working.
I-
It is. Okay. Good evening. We had, last Friday, we had a snowflake dance, which was sponsored by the National Junior Honor Society and Student Council. It was a joint effort, and we had about 160 seventh and eighth graders attend. They looked wonderful, dressed up. I would like to maybe move forward with a uniform code, but I think that'll be appealed by the students. But they were wonderful. We had a great time. The students were well behaved. All funds raised were going towards Washington DC and the Student Activity Fund. And we are looking to have a fifth and sixth grade dance. 5 and 6 dances versus 7, 8s are quite different. And so we are planning an after-school dance for 5, 6 after the vacation. So we are having that planned. Project 351 is something that's new to me. Last year was the first time we did this, and it's a program offered throughout the state to build leadership skills in our eighth graders. And we get to select an ambassador from each building. And last year was our first time, and this is, being this year, I posed it to my eighth grade faculty. I said, who do you believe would be a good ambassador? And Dominika Chmielewski was selected unanimously to lead. And Dominika is a wonderful young lady. I've had the pleasure of talking to her multiple times, meeting her family. Well, she's been involved since the new year, and they have been getting together. And she's been meeting other students throughout the state. And so right now, she is working on a community service project called Cradles to Crayons. And I've been involved in this before, where it's helping children who are homeless or low-income children and collecting things to help them out and through the transition. It's a wonderful program. It was nice to hear this program has been in place since 2011. So Dominika is a wonderful young lady. You probably know Dominika, but she really is I could not have picked a better ambassador for our school, and she does a wonderful job. On that same note, the National Junior Honor Society, as you know, we did the induction back in October, which was early this year. October, November, I believe, in the time frame. Time's flying. And we have a number of students who are looking for community service hours. So we partnered with Park Avenue, and I believe 6 students arrived last week and to help out. And then we had more interest. So what we did was Laura Foley, who was our National Junior Honor Society advisor, said, what other needs do we have? So they came, we had a student come forward, and she said, what about helping out in the building? So teachers were able to fill out forms and say, I need 2 students to do this. It could be photocopying, it could be, I had a request for poster boards to be done over, redecorated, and 6 more students volunteered their time to stay after on the half day and to contribute back to the school and help out there. So we had 12 students donate time to help out in the building. And it was really wonderful. And what was nice about it was we had National Junior Honor Society students, but also some of them were not part of the National Junior Honor Society. They just came forward and said, we want to do this. And so we're really looking to move that and grow it more. This was just a sudden thing that we put together. Laura did a great job with it, and now it's growing, and more kids want to do that. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, thank you. Next item on the agenda under old business is the FY20 budget update.
A topic near and dear to our hearts.
We are all thrilled.
We took your feedback from the last meeting, and we'll get to that, but Monique is going to start with an overview on Chapter 78.
Yes. All right. Well, we were going to put a presentation up, but looks like we got kicked off. So it's not getting there right now, but you should all have a presentation in your packet. That's the budget. So it should have been,
Oh, it's in
it
a,
was double-sided. Yes, you got it. So,
it's going to be,
I'll wait
It was a
for-
separate.
okay.
So last year, Mr. Alvis gave an in-depth overview of Chapter 70. So I'm not going to do that again tonight, but I'm just going to summarize some of it because I think it's important to talk and make sure anybody at home understands what parts make up Chapter 70. That means what. The goal of Chapter 70 formula is to ensure that every district has resources to meet foundation budget spending through an equitable combination of local property taxes and state. There are a couple key factors in the formula. The foundation budget, which is made up of enrollment, adjustment factor, and an inflation factor. And then there's the local contribution, property value, municipal revenue growth factor. So those things work together to determine your Chapter 78. Chapter 78 is determined in steps. Defines and calculates a foundation budget. That's the adequate level funding for each district. It then determines an equitable local contribution. How much of that foundation budget, so what that means, how much of that budget should be paid for by the community. And then they backfill it with Chapter 78. As you know, there's been a lot of talk this year about the reform of Chapter 70 and coming up with new formulas for the state. So this year, they're implementing goals for the foundation budget. As you know, we have, Superintendent Gogan and I were here talking about the mass budget and the new reforms that they were putting through, requests that they were budget presentations on the state. The state listened. We're not 100% there yet, probably not even 5% there yet, but we're on the path. They're listening, they hear us. So this was their first go-around at an attempt an increase. So one of the first things started, one of the goals for the foundation budget, which starts in FY20, out of district education, sets a goal over time at 3 times the state foundation budget to close the gap between the foundation and the circuit breakers. If you remember, circuit breaker is 4 times our foundation. So what that means is the district has to cover 4 times the foundation, and over anything over that is eligible for circuit breaker reimbursement. So what they're trying to do is close that gap to get us funding over the years up until 3 times that, which just means it kind of pushes that benchmark up higher anyways. Going to be offset a little bit by circuit breaker, but it's an attempt at that. The next thing they're taking a look at, which I think is the impact item, is the benefits and fixed charges. They're setting the goals based on the GIC premium rate for active and by municipal. They're going to be updating. So they're taking a look at the health insurance. They're also looking at economically disadvantaged students. And the proposal expands the foundation budget over 7 years and introduces a more progressive decile rate to the highest 5 deciles. I'm not sure if you remember last year, we had shown in the slides, you'll see in the future, the rates, how they increase for economically disadvantaged. They start at 1 and they go up to 10. Webster is currently in the we are at the highest. And in addition to that, the proposal includes a high need concentration district servicing the highest concentration of economically disadvantaged male students. So really what they're doing, and this is only affecting a small amount, those districts that see extraordinary amount of economically disadvantaged, that there were 13 in the state that are receiving. Not a big amount for people. And they've also started a new pathway, high quality and early college and innovation pathways. It's a new rate to encourage and support approved program expansion over the next 7 to 10 years. So they're encouraging the other end of the spectrum, districts that are looking at higher level programs. In FY20, there was also a new rate for English language learners. This proposal completes the expansion of the foundation budget for learners. They started that last year. So they differentiated the incremental rates by pre-K through 5, 6 to 8, and high school. So, and they've also increased the rate for high school students higher than the others. Students who have already met or exceeded the state requirements are no longer counted as EL student foundation budget, but because they're counting it for more students, it's kind of like an offset of money. It's really what they're doing, offsetting there. And then new goals for the foundation to phase in after FY20. Starting in FY21, they're going to phase in a new goal for guidance and psychological services to better reflect staffing needs for additional. What they're trying to do with this is, I think, a really great idea, because they're finding that the needs for social emotional and, you know, one of ours, we're talking about more adjustment counselors, or about social adjustment counselors and services for kids that might not necessarily be special education, but they still need supports. They're higher for all districts. So this way is a better way to spread the wealth. You know, we're not just you're not going to see high needs districts getting all the money. It's a way to service all students. And then in FY26, the proposal will raise the assumed in-district special ed enrollment rate from 3.75 to 4% of the foundation non-vote. So with a population from ours, it might change us from, that percentage really affects us by 5 kids. 5 kids, but anyway, helps. So on the next slide, you would see a copy of our foundation budget, and I highlighted the areas that they've changed, additions. Column 7 is early college or innovative pathways. You'll see 11, 12, and 13. They've combined EL, pre-K through 5, 6 through 8, and then high school. And then in column 15, you'll see they added a column for high needs increment. So what you're looking at there is Webster's FY20 Chapter 70 Foundation budget. If you look at the slide below that, this is the foundation budget rates. So this is what we were talking about, how they're defining the cost of educating different types of students. So this would be, you see it's preschool all the way through your vocational students, your special ed in-district students, out of district, goes into the breakdown of ELL learners, the cost of educating them, and then they break down the economically disadvantaged 1 through 10. So you can see they've increased rates for economically disadvantaged to 4,196. What I do want to point out is that last year we saw a reduction in those rates. So from FY18 to FY19, those rates went down, and now they're going up. So it was like a new baseline. Have we really gained anything? We're probably at the same level we were 2 years ago, but we should absolutely increases now. So that handles the foundation side of things. Now we're going to take a look at the local contribution side of things. Remember at the beginning, we said Chapter 70 is made up of your foundation, and then it's made up of your local, and then the community's ability to pay. So each community has a different target local share or ability to pay. It's based on your property values, resident income. A process was established in 2070 to move each community from its baseline to a new target. I've shown in the slide below that what it looked like in 2007, the target for the required contribution, what it looks at now. Now you've seen over the last 10, 12 years, it was all scattered all over, and now it's kind of moved, streamlined into a line, which is what you want to see. So we're moving in the right direction. The next slide shows progress towards target aid, percentage of target aid for Chapter 70. So you'll see where it was in 2007, it was scattered all over the place. It was under, over. If you look at 2020 now, we're on the right path, we're on the line. The majority of districts are on the line, but you still see some outliers. The state was very upfront at our last meeting as to say that we're always going to have outliers. I don't think that there's just some situations that we can't get away from. So we're always going to see outliers there. But it has progressed towards more equity across the state. The slide below shows how they determine town-required contributions. I'm not going to walk through all of that, but it has to do with your property, your equalized valuation, your income, looks at the foundation, and then it looks at your municipal revenue growth factor. And if you look on the right-hand column, on line 19, FY20 required local contributions at $11,930,000. That's what the state says the town can contribute, the town of Webster. Then take that number, that 11,938, and we break that out on the next slide between Webster and Bay Path by enrollment. So if we look at our current enrollment for Webster kids and we look at our enrollment for Bay Path, you'll notice those two columns at the bottom total the 11,938 broken out. 10,927 is what charged to Webster, to the public school portion of that. So if you look at our FY20 Chapter 70 summary, you'll see the prior year aid for Chapter 70, $12,709,000. Our foundation budget they calculated was $24,298,902. Our required contribution was $10,927,180. As you can see, the slide above that. So they backfill that with foundation aid, $13,371,000. So it was an increase of $660,922 in aid. And then if you look to the right, you'll see a comparison of that from last year to this year, that increase. So the last slide shows you the governor's budget and what that looks like for preliminary for the town of Webster. So the first column is what we've actually spent in 18. Middle column, it was approved for 19. And then the column to your right is your FY20 preliminary. The top portion is kind of what we just talked about. It's our foundation budget, less our minimum town contribution, our Chapter 78, and our required net spending. Next, Schedule 19. Best way I can describe that, or how I like to describe it, is things that the town can write off. You know, the town has to come up with $10,927,000, but there are certain things they already do for us. For instance, town accountants, some of their services, town treasurer, some of their services, highway plows for us. The health insurance comes from the town side. So there's different things that they pay for that they can almost write off of the contribution. So if you look and add those things up, the total Schedule 19 services, $6,065,167. So if you take that from the minimum town contribution down there, which was the $10,927,000, they're required to give us $4.562 million. Take the Chapter 78 and add the required town contribution, the minimum budget that Webster could have was $17,933,735. The budget that you see here that we've presented is $21,850,404, which is $880,000 increase from the previous year, but it's also $3.9 million applied to give us. So community has been supporting us very well over the years. We are about 60% above net spending. The state average is 20. Still not there, but we're doing okay. I apologize for the people at home who couldn't see this. I know it's been very exciting to listen to that in narrative form. But I just think it's important for people to have an understanding of where we're at and what we're looking for. Right now, you know, we're looking at a $660,000 increase. Chapter 70, budget presentation, $880,000 increase. Down. So, questions?
Any questions or comments? Hearing none. We're going to continue with the,
For the
continue with the budget discussion, I assume?
Yes, of course we are. We did take into consideration the 3 recommendations that the committee gave us, and we went back to the table as an administrative team. You did tell us to take a closer look at special education costs, extracurricular, and substitute teaching lines. You should see a page that looks like this in your packet. Our version of the budget that we're presenting tonight, we have increased the substitute teacher lines, in particular at Park Avenue Elementary School. We've added an extra $10,000. We reduced our district technology contract line to find that money within the budget. We have reduced the music supplies, as if you can remember, they were requesting, I think, 100 new chairs. We decreased that to 50, I believe, 50 chairs, so that we reduced that line by 500. We also reduced the athletic transportation line by 3,500. We increased uniforms for our cheerleaders. I will say that we had a group meeting with all of the directors for advisors for extracurricular activities at the high school, Monique, myself, and the principal, and to discuss budget requests. There, I would say, has been some miscommunication about that, so it was a good meeting. So we realized that the cheerleaders didn't have anything in our budget, so we're putting some money in for cheerleading uniforms, $5,000. And we also added an additional $7,500 for extracurricular, and we'll break that down for you after I finish this. We did reduce the heating that we thought we could reduce at the high school by $4,000, and we reclassified the ELL coach coordinator. We put that in its own line, and I just told you about the district technology contracted services. We reduced that. So we would like to present our 4.2 increase with those changes. There is another sheet in your packet that looks like, I can't find it, looks like this, that breaks down the extracurricular expenses. And so we had everyone in the room, and it was a great meeting because we were really able to see what people, it looks like this. Do you have this?
I think those that are following electronically do, but I don't believe us old-fashioned paper folk do.
Yes, I think they need to see this.
But we can, that's all right, we can go left and right.
No, we're going to get a copy. I think it's important to see. And so, Monique, you can jump in anywhere you want here on this. Well, what we did was we met with everyone, and as we've said before, we definitely had money in the budget for some of our programs. We were paying out of the what we were calling a transportation line in the budget. And anytime we got a request, we were trying to pay for it. So what we really want to do is take an equitable approach to extracurricular activities. So as you can see, which you will see shortly, the drama club has requested $2,000. We are going to cover $2,000 for their requests. The show choir has requested $23,000, $23,100, and we are going to cover actually $7,100 for membership and travel, and then an additional $3,000 for transportation. So we're going to cover 10,000. What's that, 13?
The balance remaining.
Okay. I better put my glasses on. The tech club has asked for $200. We're going to cover $200. The Bartlett High School Band has requested $3,000, and we are going to cover $1,000 in membership and fees and $2,000 for transportation. Mock Trial has requested $1,650, and we are going to cover all of that. The art club has not requested anything. They put their needs for their art clubs in the actual budgets for their school programming, so they did not request anything. Future teachers did not request anything. The Diversity Club has requested $1,000, and we're going to cover that. Chronicle has not requested anything. Medical Careers has requested $1,200. We're going to cover all of that. Super Team has requested $28.75, and we are going to cover,
Right there. Super Team requested 2875, but 2,000 of that is supported by a grant that they get from the Quo Vadis. So they didn't need the additional funding, and she also said sometimes they get extra, so they might not even need the 875, but that's what we budgeted.
And DECA Club has requested $8,185, and we are going to cover $1,300 for membership and travel and $32.85 for transportation. We did have a conversation with Marianne regarding hotel costs, and she felt students need to have some skin in the game for when they do win competitions. So Student Council has requested $3,085. We are going to cover $590 for memberships and travel and $500 for transportation. We started esports this year, and this is a trial run. They have requested $1,800, and there is a group of kids that are doing this, and we're going to cover their membership and travel. And National Honor Society is requested $1,000, and we're going to cover $1,000. So I'll let you do the grand finale. Drum roll.
Drum roll, please. So if you see down the bottom, the total for memberships and travels is about 15.5, and the transportation is 12.9. So total fees and transportation is 28.5. We've been budgeting that, it's just been in a different area. And we weren't always receiving, some of the membership fees or the hotel or the costs that they were having, we weren't receiving.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. So it's not like the money wasn't budgeted, it was just in different areas. So it took moving money, because we found out the cost was actually a little less than what we were anticipating budgeting that we needed. So it was a good exercise to go through.
It was a good meeting.
It was a good meeting. So our total fees and transportation were 28.5. If you add in our advisor stipends, it's 33,876 for a total extracurricular cost of 62,376 for our extracurricular programs. All advisors seemed happy and understanding, and it was just a good meeting all around.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the areas that we run into things like student council, for us to pay for a hotel, it's a little difficult to pay for a hotel, knowing usually those costs have to be upfront, pay things upfront. We don't have a credit card. We don't just, I can't say, put it on my account and we'll pay it later. So, but they understand if by paying dues and by paying things up front, they don't mind fundraising for certain things like that, the extracurriculars. And a lot of those things we were paying for. So like mock trial, band, we were paying for a lot of it already, but it's good to just have it organized out now, to know and have it down on paper and have supporting documentation. So we're happy about that.
And the face-to-face conversation was good. I think we actually talked about this, and then we talked about fundraising in general, and how to have some equitable opportunities, especially at the sports games, and having a rotation of splitting the funds that are, and so they are working on that. So I think we're, in this version that we're presenting, this is what we're covering for extracurricular activities.
Just in case anybody is interested in any of this documentation that they couldn't see tonight, I'll make sure I have it all posted on the website tomorrow. So if anybody wants to review any of the presentation budgets, they are posted on our website office.
Any questions or comments from the,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, Mrs. Siddiqui?
I just want to say that I'm really happy to see that there was a sit down and people were able to talk about what the needs are, and just having been heard and have it on paper must feel really good all around.
It
And it's
does.
good to hear it.
It does. I think there was some miscommunication. I definitely think that, like the game telephone, things were not getting across the same way. So face-to-face meetings are always good. And, we opened up the doors for people to access both Monique and myself. If there's a request, if we don't know about it, we can't do anything about it.
Just ask.
So,
That was the key. Pick up the phone and ask. We'll work together and figure it out. But I just think they, a lot of the times, they just felt that, well, it wasn't covered in the past, didn't have the money, so sometimes it wasn't even brought to our attention that they needed it. Just thought that it wouldn't be covered. So having that dialogue was very good.
yeah, and it was good for them to hear that we
Absolutely.
support it face to face, that they could hear it from us. I mean, not everyone watches these meetings, so, yes. So it was good.
Herbie,
And
Yes, I heard.
yeah,
Herbie's DV hiring, I
Yeah,
actually saw him at the game.
He said that.
He'll be glad that he got a shout out. Well, I'm just curious, what is esports? I know Dr. Cushing's not here. Do you happen to know?
He told me a little bit about it, and I had talked with our tech guy, because when I first heard about it, I said, no way. And I said, I'm not gonna support a club to play video games. But then when I talked to my tech guy about it, he's like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I wish we had that when I was school. It's actually a club. It's an organized club where they get together and they play as a team against other schools and other districts, a video game or some kind of game that they have to work together. So this year they had bought a few computers for it, and I believe it's Jared Sloter who's been volunteering his time with the kids, and they've been playing. There's registration fees, I think 3 events throughout the year, different gaming competitions where they can play. I mean, I think we all know that gaming has become quite a popular item out there, and colleges are offering that. And it gives these kids an opportunity to play the game, but to play as a team, strategize, and come up with a plan for that. That's what they're doing.
Again, thank you very much, not only for this clarity, but going back and continuing the budget discussion, which will continue for the next couple months as we get closer and closer to a number of what we think we might be able to present as a final request for town meeting.
We will need some guidance for the end of February as to what we want down as a formal request, with the understanding that much work will be needed, after the fact.
Well, do you want to publicly discuss any of the private conversations you've had with the town administrator up to this point?
We have another meeting coming up.
Right. Because that, to me, in my opinion, that really will dictate, when you say some guidance, obviously, all of us within reason would like to get everything we need, but we know that that's not feasible. So oftentimes it comes down to those discussions to see, okay, we have a better sense, we have the governor's proposed budget. As we get closer, we get the Senate and the House, and I'm not quite sure. We'll find out hopefully by Mr. McKenna and Mr. Fatman what this potential act, the bill that was proposed. I think there's one by the governor and one by the Senate. How much of an increase that may provide to districts. And then also on the town side, I know there's a lot of working numbers that they're trying to resolve, a lot of conversations. I know on the selectmen's meeting last night, I think there was an executive session on the agenda
Okay.
for, I'm guessing, the town administrator to present to the Board of Selectmen conversations that they've had up to this point based on the topic that was on the agenda with regards to union negotiations and health insurance. I think that's the big
Yes, it is.
number, and that will, guidance, I think, will really be determined. My suggestion, and again, I'm not speaking for the committee, would be to present within reason what we need, which has been historically what we do for that February 28th deadline. And then we figure out if between the Chapter 70 money and the town side, can we afford what that number is? And if we can't, where do we have to cut?
Well, we have a meeting scheduled next week,
Right.
next Wednesday with the tri-committees, and we'll know more then, after that meeting. And then at the next school committee meeting, what we'd like is just any final recommendations from the committee, if there's any outstanding things that you don't believe are covered in the budget. And I know then we have to narrow it down.
Well, it has to be narrowed down for that next meeting.
Well, I think,
I mean, the budget, even though we present a draft to the
can
town
change.
administrator, it always changes.
and it is changing, it's
Right.
evolving, because there's, like you said, there's gonna be other budgets coming out. This is usually the base. So I'm hopeful that we'll see some changes, maybe some slight increases. My thought is that I think this budget is something that we think can,
Live with.
that we can live with.
And
And
grow.
it gives us room to grow and to do the things and to do the work that we need to do, to keep this district moving forward. If we're looking at cutting or looking at going below, then I think, it's gonna have an impact.
We're going to advocate
We're
for
gonna-
what we need to move forward. I think, as you know, we are a turnaround district, and we are making substantial gains. Any significant cuts would mean programming. And, we're going to advocate for what we need. And we are certainly not asking for anything over the moon. But we will know more from the town perspective, and we work very collaboratively with them, so.
Right, and I think it's important moving forward to send them what we think we need.
Mhm.
I don't think this is an outrageous budget by any means. We understand that, we know things are tight, we understand that there's probably gonna be more work that needs to be done, and we understand that we're gonna probably have to go back and look. But I think, moving forward for the end, that, in my opinion, I think I'd like to send the 4.2 down and then continue the work after that. Like I said, we can always work and adjust as we move forward. It's not final. We have a lot of time for that, but I think it's a good starting point.
I agree. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, thank you. The next item under old business is approval of various athletic coaching job descriptions. As Mrs. Gogan alluded to earlier, the union has requested some additional conversation regarding this topic, so we will table that item. The next item on the agenda is approval field trip request form, file IJOA-E.
As you know, this is simply part of our policy, and we have updated the form. We were using multiple different forms, and we've condensed them and made the best form possible. We'd like you to approve this form to attach to our policy.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the field trip request form as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item under old business is monthly fundraising applications. Again, per the school committee policy, we review the the fundraising applications that have been approved by the building principal and superintendent. There is one from the National Honor Society, the Student Council, the junior class, the Florida Spring Trip 2019, freshman class, the band chorus at the middle school, at Park Ave PTO, and another Park Ave PTO. So again, these are all listed on the school district website, and if anyone has any questions about any fundraising activities, please feel free to reach out to the business manager's office. And/or the building principal.
There you go.
That's the place to start, the
Yes.
building principal. Clarification.
The next item under new business is approval of overnight field trip Bartlett Student Council Conference, Hyannis, Mass. Since my wife is the teacher advisor for this group and actually made the request, I am going to recuse myself and ask Mr. Shenover to please chair this agenda item.
Surely. All right. And if I can- Thank you. So as Mr. Hurton said, this is a field trip request form with a faculty sponsor of Donna Hurton. And it looks like it's for the student council.
I can speak on it.
Yes, please.
Okay. On behalf of Mrs. Hurton, who's the advisor for the Student Council, this is an annual trip for Student Council representatives down at Hyannis. There will be a total of 8 students going overnight to the Mask State Student Council Conference. This is a wonderful opportunity for our students, and they've done this multiple years.
Thank you very much. With that being said, any questions or comments? All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the Student Council field trip to the Mass State Student Council
So moved.
Second.
with a motion and a second. Lori, would you poll the committee? Yes.
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 Abstain. Thank you, Mr. Shenevert. Next item on the agenda under new business is approval of overnight field trip All-State Choir Student Boston, Mass. This has been requested by Mr. Carney at the high school, and appears that Hannah Piccioni, and I really hope I pronounced her last name correctly,
I think you did.
is attending the All-State concert on February 28th, returning on March 1st. And again, since this is an overnight field trip, it is required to have school committee approval per our policy.
I would just like to add that Hannah is the first female participant in the All States from our school. Her parents will be transporting her to the hotel where she will stay with other female students, and Mr. Carney will be there as the district chaperone. And we're very proud that she is participating in this.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the overnight field trip for the All-State Choir students.
So moved.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Certainly, on behalf of the committee, we wish Hannah the best of luck and congratulations on what I'm guessing was a very competitive process to get to this point. Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item on the agenda is review and approval of the 2019-2020 school calendar. Mrs. Gogan.
Hard to believe it's around the corner.
As Mr. Zajac said earlier, just flying by.
It is, and no joking aside, we are literally planning for next year already. Professional development days and what we're going to do, and that is all tied to what we've put in the budget, and so that's exciting. Our budget supports our goals. I will briefly give you an overview of the calendar. I will just point out some of the adjustments and big dates. Basically, the calendar is similar to this year's calendar, except that we've moved a half-day in October to April 1st half-day, and we did move the one school committee meeting, which was the last week in July, to July 9th in the middle of the month. And, I'm sorry, July 16th. Good catch, Mo. And the other adjustment is we're not putting a half-day before the December break. School will start on August 29th for our students, grades 1 through 12. We will have our district opening for our teachers August 26th, 27th, and 28th, and our new teacher orientation on August 21st. School will start for preschool students on September 4th. Our open houses will be in the month of September. Bartlett High School, September 11th. Park Avenue Elementary, September 12th. Webster Middle School, September 19th. Parent-teacher conferences will be November 13th in the evening and November 14th in the afternoon. High school graduation will be on June 5th. And if we don't have any snow days, which is highly unlikely, our last day of school will be June 15th. Our breaks are similar: Thanksgiving, December, February, and April. And we have a number of half-days and 2 full days of professional development.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Naprata.
is there any consideration to changing Park Ave from trimesters to quarters?
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? Can we just, I think that microphone's dead possibly. Thank you.
I know this was the first year that we have gone to trimesters, and after speaking with the admin team and the teachers, it seems like this has been, a welcomed change. It gives us a longer period of time to really be able to assess where children are at and be able to give them the opportunity to get used to the routines and be able to show us the very best that they have.
Okay. I guess maybe, so that's fine in terms of the school calendar discussion. Maybe a progress report would be good.
Like maybe midway.
Yeah.
Okay, you'll definitely take that into consideration. I like that idea.
Parents actually care what they're doing?
I'm on Power School every day, and so is Mrs. Blythe, so I'm not the only one.
Yes, I am.
That's a good recommendation.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the 2019-2020 school calendar as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item on the agenda is approval of Bartlett High School Improvement Plan. Mrs. Gogan.
Chairman Hurton, I would ask you to table that because the principal's not here.
Then we shall table that. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the Webster Middle School Improvement Plan. Mr. Zajac or Mrs. Gogan?
Good evening. The improvement plan for the middle school focuses on 4 areas: student attendance, student achievement, curriculum, which is instruction and assessment, and I think, positive school climate. Although we've been in middle school for our 4th year, there's still work to be done. A middle school model is all encompassing, so that's why we targeted those 4 specific areas for objectives. And as you go through the plan, it does detail some of the things that we're already working on. Use of data, of course, for the objective number 1. Remediation, supporting those students who are falling behind. How do we support them in the classroom? And also recognition. We want to recognize our students. We've done that through a variety of ways so far. Objective 2, again, focusing on student achievement, opportunities. Our students are very capable. And this year we've got the Spanish in place, and we're still going to expand on that. I've had meetings with the high school to hopefully in near future offer the Spanish 1 over 7th and 8th grade. So we have looked at that component. The curriculum, strategic number 3, there's been a lot of work. The turnaround plan has been meaningful. Our teachers have utilized a curriculum template, and they have actually produced grades 5 through 8 curriculum scope and sequence. That I'm proud to say that they did some wonderful work, and that's part of our presentation for our visit this year. And the assessments, are we assessing our students, and are we doing this through the whole grade and using that data? And the last thing is the middle school program. Opportunities for our students, implementing programs that encourage our kids, like the robotics program, which we're doing again this year. And then we're also having conversation with Mrs. Daniels about promoting that next year, starting that right away and beginning to compete in the Lego League Challenge and coming up with a plan where we have our students involved right away. We've also talked about offering other after-school programs like Scratch, which is actually an online program where kids can code. It's a program that's used at University of Rhode Island. I've had visits there. So other opportunities for our students, okay? And really just well-rounded students. We're looking at Naviance, which is a program that's used at the high school. Naviance allows students to begin to explore career interests, and it's something that can begin in 6th grade. So as they proceed to the Bartlett High School, they've already started to look at their strengths, their weaknesses, setting goals, social goals, academic goals, and then preparing a portfolio as they go on to the high school to look at colleges. So we have already inquired about the cost of that, and that's something that we will be looking to implement next year.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
I just have one comment. Each of the principals have been working on these school improvement plans with their school councils. So the feedback to put these together are coming from parents, community members, teachers, teacher representatives.
So I did have one comment, and it actually relates also to the high school plan, not as much to Mrs. Parmley's. So when I was reading over these last night, because what do cool kids do on a night of a snowstorm? They look at school improvement plans. I was comparing it to plans that I've been asked to put together in my professional career. And one of the things that hit me was very well thought out. I know a lot of time went into these, but there's no benchmark to a lot of the goals that are set. So I'm thinking, well, how do you as a principal or you as a superintendent or perhaps us as a committee ultimately determine whether or not these initiatives have been met? And then I thought, well, I'm told quite often, well, you're not an educator, so you don't understand things. So I really wasn't going to say anything, but MASC provided, ironically today, a report from an article in a publication called Commonwealth that I had never heard of. I have no idea. It's an organization called Mass Inc. I went on their website. It looks like it's a nonpartisan think tank. And they did a report where they focused on 16 gateway cities, small to mid-sized urban school districts that are home to a large share of the state's chronically low-performing schools. And I'm actually going to read what they said because it hit me. 2/3 of district improvement plans and half of the school plans in the 16 communities did not contain any measurable student outcome goals, according to this report. In the 16 gateway cities studied, 6 included no outcome measures in district improvement plans. Among the 10 that did include outcome targets, they collectively laid out 165 goals, but only 1/3 of those were measurable in a way that outlined clear outcomes and a timeline for achieving them, according to the study. Basically, it went on and on and on to say that from their assessment, how can an improvement plan be effective if you don't identify what the goal is that you are trying to achieve? So that was my question.
Point well taken. You have to set a goal and you have to measure it. If I look at Mrs. Parmley's plan, she has benchmark assessments. The task for all 3 of the schools was to put together a school improvement plan. And we also have turnaround action plans. And in the turnaround action plans, they have benchmarks. Having said that, we can take that feedback and go back. The principals can go back and realign these to make sure that there are some clear benchmark measurements in there. I think your point is well taken. Go ahead, Michael.
Some of the benchmarks is the successful completion, implementation of a program, like Student Support Team, RTI, is a program that the data for that would be the minutes, the schedules that we produce, the meetings, the plans that are developed, and those have built-in benchmarks. So when you develop an improvement plan for student support plan, we're working with the family, we have our families coming in. About 85% of our families come in for meetings during the day. We set goals within those plans. So that's one way where benchmarks are not, they're internal benchmarks. Okay, we're meeting the goals of that child. But the way you can measure something like that is the number of kids who got into the program, who are recommended, and those who are exited. And then the improvements. So some students do get out of that program, and because the interventions we put in place are helpful. But I do agree, there has to be some measurable things, especially with student attendance, which is so, it's so clearly defined that our numbers, we do monthly reports, we do submit them, but we also meet regularly with guidance in terms of student attendance and what we're doing to improve these student attendance. Just another example. So some of them are tangible productions, products, and some are definitely measurable. And that's something I will go back and repair.
Again, I'm not speaking on behalf of
No,
the
it's
committee.
good.
No, I think these are documents, and we're really working hard to be transparent about what we're doing. And as Mr. Zajac just said, well, we would, of course, look at data. So take his initiative 1, use school-based data to target attendance. Well, we're going to measure that internally, but we're not stating here how we're going to measure it, when we're going to measure it, who's responsible to measure it, and what the end result is, which we could definitely do a different graph and list that so that it would be more transparent to people. And they have the task of blending the school improvement plan with the turnaround action plan. So, you know, each school has a turnaround action plan. So I think it's a valid concern.
I agree. I think what happens is it happens so fluidly at the building level where I'm just meeting with guidance. I'll have a meeting with them. We meet every Tuesday from 9 to 10. And that's on just talking about students. And that's where we also discussed attendance. So it's just a meeting that we have to make sure everyone's on the same page. So those are things that we do internally that I haven't put on paper. But I will.
And again,
No, it's a good point.
I'm not denying that it doesn't occur, but to your, if it's going to be something that's a public document, and especially for those of us, aside from Mrs. Naparata, who are not in the field of education, it's very helpful to say, okay, and the easiest one is attendance. If we achieve these, if we implement these changes, we expect, or our goal is to go from, I'm making the numbers up, 88% to 93%. Yeah, I understand not all of them can get a clearly defined measurement, but from my perspective at least, the more that's in there, not only is it easier for us as a committee and the public in general to understand, but I know in my own plans, we all get crazy busy. And all of a sudden it becomes February 13th and the school year is more than halfway over and the superintendent is putting all of these outrageous, crazy demands, and these annoying school committee members are asking me questions that I'm too tired to answer and I wish you would stop talking. And sometimes it's nice to look at what the goal
No,
is.
it's well taken, and you're right. You are correct. We do set them internally. We have a goal, but we don't put them on in a document, make it more transparent, but that's something I will take care of.
Yes, Mrs. Daniels.
So I've been involved in helping to write a lot of the turnaround plans. And it's a great task for the principals to have to report on the progress of each of the very detailed benchmark goals. And I'm just suggesting that, what I see is their school improvement plans, for the most part, align with the turnaround plans. The last thing that I would want them to have to do is get progress on the turnaround plan, get progress on the school improvement plan for this year, because I'd rather have them kind of go about their business in a more direct, what you do every day, than have to, now I have to worry about reporting on both of them. I really do think they do align.
They do align. They definitely align.
And if you would, we can certainly pass on the progress of the turnaround plan. I know we set you up, Mrs. Parmley, with a document, a live document that she's reporting on the progress of her exact, like 80% of her teachers will participate in, or 100%. We have those benchmarks. And I know Mr. Zajac does that, and I know Dr. Cushing will deep into that as soon as he writes his turnaround plan. Just my personal thought.
I would just like to recommend that we look at the plans tonight and we don't approve any, because I do think it's a formatting issue. And I think we can format them so that we can list benchmarks and we can list who's responsible, and we can redo these easily. I think we can do it. It's okay, guys. We can do it.
Like I said, when I read this article,
We can do it.
And the other interesting thing about this article is, and I think we have struggled. The other component that this report really focused on was school councils. And I know we struggle, I'm guessing sometimes we struggle at getting parental involvement in those school councils. And that was one of the areas that the report, and it's nobody's fault, it's just the reality of sometimes what you guys struggle with.
Growth is a process.
So again, I don't want to speak for the committee, but if the members certainly feel it's appropriate to approve the plans, by all means, that is entirely up to them.
I think it's a good call out. Yeah.
So per the superintendent's request, we will table item G as well, although must say Mrs. Parmalee did have a lot of the benchmarks and ways that she was going to.
Why don't we look at Mrs. Parmley's?
Okay, so we'll go to item G, approval of Park Ave Elementary School Improvement Plan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So with our school improvement plan, of course, it came under the turnaround plan umbrella, and it was presented and vetted out by our ILT and also our advisory council. And I'm excited to say we have 11 people on that advisory council.
Wow.
So well represented by the community and parents and staff. So starting with our theory of action, we believe that if there is a clear focus on the effective delivery of an aligned curriculum through shared leadership and professional collaboration by teachers who employ the use of student data to drive instruction, established in a community with high academic and behavior expectations, students will be engaged and learn at proficient and advanced levels. So under that theory of action, which again, everything in here does align with our turnaround plan, we have our 3 objectives. And I won't read through every one of them. However, I'll just quickly, the objective 1 is all about rigorous curriculum and high quality instruction and using both of those to improve student achievement. This year for the turnaround plan, year 2 is all about distributive leadership. So you're going to see that the ILT, as far as shared leadership, is included. Under objective 1, we have 3 initiatives in order to bring that about: developing a common understanding of high quality instruction and committing to those best practices. And part of that are those 3 main areas that we're looking at with the turnaround plan for Park Avenue: is academic discourse, our language modeling, and our quality feedback. Initiative 2 is helping our staff to understand learning targets, kind of giving students the difference between an objective and a learning target is learning targets are really made for children. Where do you expect them to be at the end of each lesson? And then figuring out what is your success criteria? How do you know if your kids have reached that learning destination? So we're going to be working on that. We're going to be working on building capacity of how to design those learning targets and really have that very purposeful, meaningful lesson planning. Objective 2 is all about culture and climate that promotes equity and student success and engaging families. So under those 3 initiatives, it's all about becoming a safe and supportive school with common expectations, common languages. We've implemented kids of character, voice volumes, our PBIS measures, all these different pieces as you read through. And I feel like we're on a really good track. We've just gotten recently our SWIS data from our PBIS measures, and our behaviors are just continuing to decline. So I am very pleased to see where we're at now as opposed to where we were even at the beginning of the year. So I think we're moving in the right direction. Initiative 2, again, celebrating student success and the role model behavior. One of the pieces that came out of last year's AIR report was that parents wanted to see more kids being recognized for doing the right thing. And so we do a Kid of Character celebration every Friday where we recognize 33 to 36 children across the school. And then, of course, we have our Student of the Month breakfast that was started last year, very successful, and we love to see the families coming out to support. And Initiative 3, developing that safe and supportive school, again, really talking about that growth mindset that all kids can achieve. If they're given the right tools and we support them, children can absolutely achieve at all levels, high levels, and we really believe that. And the last objective, the big part for this year was establishing that ILT that was highly involved in the instructional practices. So when I look at the teachers that are on this team, they are critical to the communication that goes back out. They fulfill what we call tuning protocols. They bring training to the rest of their team, and they are truly seen as instructional leaders at Park Avenue. So those are the pieces that we will be continuing to really refine and improve upon as the year goes on. And then the rest of the pack are just the bits and pieces that make it all happen. Any questions?
Any questions or comments from the committee?
I would just like to point out that the Park Avenue Elementary School School Improvement Plan does have who's going to lead, when it's going to be started, when it's going to be completed by, and what the final outcome is. So I would ask the school committee to approve, consider approving this school improvement plan tonight.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, what is the desire of the committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Mrs. Siddiqui.
I would like to make a motion to approve the Park Avenue Elementary School Improvement Plan.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, thank you again to you and your team and the council. It's great to hear. Did you say 11 members?
11 members.
That's great.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is acceptance of grant from Webster Cultural Council. Mrs. Gogan, I
Yes.
assume.
We received, with Mr. Cushing here, do you want to go back and let him just speak a little bit about his plan?
Oh, sure.
He did sneak in here
I
before we moved to that.
apologize. Let me go back to item E under, please bear with us for a moment, Dr. Cushing. I gotta get our paper back.
It's quite all right. While you're waiting, I'll just give a quick update on the Best of Bartlett that we hosted tonight. I was told that we had about 4 times as many families there this year than we did last year. So that's really exciting to see that we had that much more based on what I was told. And it was really great to see that many parents out for a good evening.
That's fantastic. So your school improvement
All
plan.
right, so by June of 2021, so we did this as fiscal year 2019. As we're heading into that turnaround writing phase, wanted to make sure that we're respectful of that process and that the school improvement plan coming before that will adapt and change as the turnaround plan comes into play. So want to make sure that we're looking at this for this current fiscal year, and then there are things that continue throughout for 3 years. But the vision is by June of 2021, Bartlett High School will be built upon teams of educators that deliver curriculum instruction informed by data analysis of student assessments, while establishing high expectations for all students within a school culture built upon tolerance and respect for each individual and group, a common instructional framework utilizing SEI strategies, learning targets, success criteria, and lesson closure, among other critical elements will be used by our teams and individual educators. Then you have our core values, which are long-standing. You move to the next page, you have the strategic objectives. Strategic objective 1, work collaboratively to research and support the writing of a comprehensive turnaround plan. That really includes people across the school community, the instructional leadership team, the principal, the assistant principal, members of the statewide system of support. It includes teachers participating in the Massachusetts Tier 1 Focus Academy, which is looking at universal design for learning. Establish a stakeholder group, so really looking for community members to be participating in a stakeholder group about Bartlett over the next several years. Bartlett should be the pride, as all the schools in the community, but Bartlett should be the pride of the community. We should really see it with a tremendous amount of respect. And so we want to make sure that as part of our turnaround planning, part of our school improvement planning, we're building almost a cultural council. It's the wrong term to use, but a community council of people to support us and to inform us on how the school can be better involved with this community. Review current strategies to immediately and effectively improve student enrollment, absenteeism, graduation rates, dropout rates, and extended engagement rates. So making sure that we're getting kids here, making sure that we are recruiting kids well. If any of you have, I don't believe anyone here has an 8th grader, but we did a mailer that may be in your packet of information. But we did a mailer home to 8th grade families and parents that people said was very well received as they came in the doors tonight, and we plan to do more of that type of recruiting out to parents and guardians to make sure they know the great things that are happening at Bartlett. Identify students' needs and prepare them for college, career, and citizenship. That's a question that we've done a lot of work around, all right? And so the question aspect of that is, what do students need to be college, career, and ready for citizenship? We looked at crisis as a word instead of citizenship, but we settled on citizenship, kind of encompassing so many different things our society is doing. And then participate in the American Institute for Research surveys, unpack the final reports,
analyze data to inform the turnaround writing process. So all of this, strategic objective 1 is really focused on that turnaround planning. And I would say a lot of the benchmarks are kind of included in the activities, but I have no problem spelling those out in those benchmarks. Strategic objective 2, improve academic achievement, attendance, and discipline by offering a variety of student-centered programs and support services with equitable access for all while preparing for college, career, and civic life. So it's coming out of that first objective and building upon. So review and enhance existing programs, including but not limited to Advisory, Quest, Strong, Nichols Honors Academy. Really looking at our programs and seeing what they're offering our kids and how can we improve on them and how can we really capitalize on any challenges that we have and improve there. Create a commitment to create a committee to examine alternatives for a senior year experience. Local schools like Sutton, students do internships their entire fourth quarter. What are the opportunities that we can provide our seniors that will give them a unique experience as being a member of the Bartlett community? So looking at internships, other ways for students to be involved. Explore a variety of freshman transition programs successfully implemented at other schools. So we really want to see what other schools are doing well and how can we transition those here? How can we onboard freshmen in a more successful manner from middle school? Strategic objective 3, establish a culture and environment characterized by respect and support for all groups while supporting the social, emotional, and behavioral needs of all students. One of the things that schools across the Commonwealth are seeing is an increased incidence of social, emotional, health, and welfare issues for their students. One of my colleagues' schools saw 92 ambulance visits for social, emotional crises over 180, right, just as an example. So establish a schools-based task force to build knowledge on social emotional learning. Lead the faculty in a book study, Social Emotional Learning in the Classroom, authored by Deb Brady and Bill Rebus. Establish a student wellness ambassador team, might want to call that the SWAT team, to identify the concepts surrounding students' surrounding success. So really looking at those, using that student wellness ambassador team to program monthly wellness activities focused on physical, social, and emotional well-being. Really taking this not just in the hands of teachers and educators, but putting it in the hands of some of our students. Research and identify resources for parents and guardians identified through an annual parent-guardian survey. Excuse me. Moving on to strategic objective 4. One of the things we really need to focus on is school-wide and district-wide attendance. So having heard that and seen that in the other plans, on a foster an environment where students will meet or exceed 92% school-wide attendance. Obviously, that 92% is something that we want to increase as years come along, but really want to take it something realistic as we start on this venture. Chronic absenteeism, defined as 18 or more per year, which is 2 per month, will be reduced by 25% by the end of FY20 using a variety of strategies, initiatives, supports, and through building student understanding that consistent attendance is critical. I forget who, but I know someone's in human resources on the committee, and I'm sure that good attendance at school is a predictor of good attendance at your job. And if you're not attending at your job, then you probably aren't going to. So it's one of those critical things we need to do. So we want to establish a task force, which has actually been done already. Research existing attendance supports and protocols of similar demographic schools and implement best practices. Establish a new attendance protocol as part of the Bartlett High School Student Handbook, which will be approved for you to approve. Review and redefine credit recovery options for students requiring alternative pathway for graduation. So that actually connects back into an earlier strategic objective when we're looking at ways that we're going to keep kids enrolled and going to keep kids on target. So I hope you see that there's a through line through these strategic objectives. And really trying to connect the dots in a almost simplistic way to make sure that we're targeting things we need to do. Excuse me for a second. Provide professional development that cultivates and strengthens lesson design, effective instructional strategies, and common formative assessment. So this is where we get down to the brass tacks of what we do on a daily basis in strategic objective 5. And we want to make sure that we're participating in the Universal Design for Learning professional development. So that's going to be really school-based. We've got a team out right now doing some learning. Going to be doing a book study, hopefully, with that group. Not hopefully, will be. Provide embedded UDL coaching within classrooms. We have one of our teachers being trained as a UDL coach right now, Ms. Argentieri. Focus professional development opportunities on 5 staff identified areas of concern. So this year, we've done a lot of work really building towards our turnaround plan. We've done some affinity protocols, we've done some data analysis protocols, and we've done some other work really diving into the school instructional observation report, which is the first report that came back as part of our TSV. I'm blanking on TSV right now, Janice, turn around.
Tiny site visit. Tiny site visit.
I'm sorry. So,
Turnaround site visit.
there's a lot of acronyms that Desi likes out there, and I was just blanking on that. So as part of that, but these 5 things have really come through clearly from teachers as staff identified areas of concern throughout the things that we've been discussing: student discourse, literacy, classroom climate and culture, deductive and critical reasoning, and collaboration. And I would say also too that those are very job-based skills that we need people to have, right? Very much focused on those types of things. I mean, being able to be deductive and critical reasoning, being able to have collaboration when we're talking about kids going into the workforce, being able to read and analyze texts, right? Coming under literacy. Coordinate informal peer observation. So we want to get teachers into other teachers' classrooms. And we want them to be in a non-evaluative way, really being able to provide an opportunity, give feedback. And what's really awesome is one of our math teachers the other day at the professional development I was at slid across a note and said, what if we were to say, instead of a duty, like every 2 weeks, a teacher has to go and observe another person's classroom and give informal feedback? Like, that's pretty awesome that teachers are starting to think that way, all right, if they haven't already. And then observe, and then this is for school leadership, observe 3 to 5 classrooms per week, providing the direct targeted feedback with actionable follow-ups. Then strategy objective 6, establish tasks and activities focused on improving school enrollment. So host the best of BHS assemblies. We've done those this year already, and we're going to improve and move those up earlier in the year next year. We want to provide, really start driving traffic through social media to Facebook options, Twitter options, make sure that we're, if not paying for it, but trying to find a way to do what Constant Contact does in a broadcast digital media way to really make sure that we're hitting parents that way, but also giving them print and mail options home. Well, there's a higher cost of that. I think sometimes that stands out more when it comes to emails flooding your inbox, right? And so how are we targeting people to make sure our message is getting across without losing the message in the noise of other media hits that are being out there? Invite grade 8 students to Bartlett-sponsored events, including but not limited to pep rallies, special speaking opportunities, and other appropriate activities. I think a great example that would have been nice to invite the students to would have been our Black Empowerment Student Union. They had an absolutely phenomenal kickoff to Black History Month that the entire high school went, and it was 100% student developed, all right? They had advisors to help them and to help guide them, but it was all student developed. And it was really an awesome event. Establish two-way communication with parents, guardians, and other stakeholders through newsletters, local media, and social media. And provide 1 free athletic ticket to grade 8 students to attend a game of their choice. And so talking with Athletic Director Peranto, he figures that, you might get the most 10 to 13, 10 to 15 8th graders. So maybe we do an 8th grade night in the fall, maybe we do an 8th grade night in the winter, really market it and bill it and get kids to come out to be able to see what Bartlett has to offer. I would love to hear any suggestions, comments, feedback, as it's probably not going to be approved tonight and we have to do the benchmarks, but I'd love to hear your suggestions so that we can tweak.
Mrs. Gogan?
Thank you.
Sorry, I talked a lot.
That's okay.
Talked very fast.
I know you worked hard on this, and all of you have worked hard on this, and I do think your feedback is pertinent, because it's sort of like backwards by design. Here's the goal, here's what I want, here's what my benchmark's going to be, and so my feedback would be that for the middle school and the high school plans, that we outline what we actually want the final outcomes to be. and then we are specific about what the progress monitoring is going to be. And here's what I say about goals. Let's aim high, but let's have a clear map of where we're going. And we can help you with that if you need help with that. And again, for the committee, a school improvement plan is an outline of specific goals. It's not everything. It can't be everything. There's going to be, and believe me, I collect data all the time from the principals on attendance, on discipline, on academics. We can't put everything in a school improvement plan, but a school improvement plan is a public document which will help people see how and what we're doing. And it is tied to your turnaround plan, and it is tied to our budget. So I think we can go back and do a little bit of work on this, that it will be a little clearer.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
Mr. Chair?
Mrs. Naprata?
When I reviewed your school improvement plan, I particularly liked this last page and the focus on the eighth graders and getting them excited to come to Bartlett. So thank you for your thought and focus in that area.
Any other questions or comments? Again, just, I know a lot of work went into this, and everybody's very busy, so I just want to thank all of you for putting these together and continuing effort to try to improve throughout the district. Next item on the agenda under new business is acceptance of grant from Webster Cultural Council.
We have received a grant of $2,200 dedicated to the Bartlett High School Art Department. They actually have used these funds to go to the Huntington Museum in Boston, and we would officially like the school committee to accept this donation.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Here, oh,
Mr. Chairman?
sorry. I said to myself, I've got to slow down, and I tried, but I was too fast. I
Nope,
apologize.
I'm going ahead, actually.
Oh,
I'd like to
okay.
make a motion to accept the grant.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to accept the grant from the Webster Cultural Council in the amount of $2,280. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, next item on the agenda is review, transfer, signing of bills, payrolls, and vouchers. The next item on the agenda is review, transfer, signing of.
Popcorn.
Oh, I don't know. Let me get a second popsicle headache going through the Chapter 70 formula. I appreciate the effort.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sheneret,
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
there is a motion and a second to adjourn. Hearing no discussion. Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, thank you very much, everybody. Meeting adjourned.